What's up, everybody? This is Josh with Rockstar V2, and today we're going to be taking a look at a rebuildable tank atomizer. This is a clone from Tobeco, and it is the Orchid version 2, originally designed by Aethertech. This is meant for dual coils, and it's kind of K-Fun-esque. You'll see some differences once we get down to the build deck, and it's just really a really enjoyable tank. I really like this guy. So, what we're going to do is we're going to dive down up close. I'm going to show you all the parts and all the stuff that comes with it. We're going to put a build and a wick in there and yeah, see if we can't make some vapors happen. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so here we are up close and personal with the Orchid version 2 clone from Tobeco. This is exactly how it looks when you pull it out of the box. I don't have the little box anymore, but we're all pretty familiar with that. Standard little box. I got the atomizer inside, a little bag of tricks, plenty of spare O-rings all the way from the chimney O-ring to the little fill hole screw O-ring. You get an extra fill hole screw, and originally when I bought it there were 4 Phillips head screws. The 4 Allen key grub screws that came with it are in the atomizer. So it comes with, you know, Phillips head or Allen key, so you can choose whichever you prefer. Also comes with the Allen key, which we'll be using in a little bit, and you know, the normal little bag of silica and like 28 or 30 gauge Canthol, which I always immediately throw away. But it's really cool they give you those extra O-rings and screws. Most importantly, the fill hole screw. That's one reason why one of my K-Funs went down, because I didn't have a fill hole screw for it. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the Orchid. So here's an up close look. Just kind of going over it. You can see it from all angles. And let's disassemble it. So you have a solid top cap right here. There'll be an O-ring around the outside to seal with the tank section, and there's an O-ring inside of here to seal with the chimney. All right. There's your top cap. Plastic tank section, not sure if it's PMMA or what it's made of, but it's frosted look. That's what they went with. So there's that. And we've got our chimney. Pretty narrow bore there. Could have been a little wider. Chimney section. You hear the threads there. Not the best in the world, but you know, they're pretty clean. They're smooth. There's no burrs. It won't catch or anything, but they got a little bit of a sound to it. You see there, they put the Orchid logo on the chimney. And now we get to the action, is the build deck. Got a split positive block there. Alright. Negatives on the outside, of course. 2 nice size air holes. I make them out to be about 2 millimeters. You got your 4 wick channels, or juice flow channels. O-ring on the bottom to seal the tank. 2 millimeter airflow on that side. 2 millimeter airflow on that side. 510 connection with a brass pin and a fill hole screw over here, and it goes through the deck right there. Alright, so that's about it as far as just taking a look at it up close and personal. Now we can go ahead and throw a build in it. So let's go ahead and jump right to that. So for our build today, we will need an ohm meter. First things first, and that would be safety ohm meter. We've got a 2.25 millimeter screwdriver that we will be wrapping our coil on. Ceramic tip tweezers, scissors, Allen key, 28 gauge Canthol, some scissors, organic cotton ball, got my snips. That's about it for right now. Let's go ahead and start building. Alright, so first things first, you're going to take your screwdriver and your Canthol. I've got probably about 10 to 12 inches here, and I always just wrap one coil, cut off the extra, and then wrap the second coil. So that way I'm not dealing with two small pieces of Canthol. Alright, so I like to hold my screwdriver like this in my hand. Then I put the wire in between my thumb and pointer finger. Then we'll go ahead and do 7 wraps of this 28 gauge Canthol, and we're going to try and get the wraps as close and as tight as possible during the wrapping process, because the less you have to play with it, the better. That's 4, that's 5, 6, and 7. Alright, so we have a basic micro coil there. Alright, so we'll snip that extra off like so. Set this coil to the side, and we shall do the same thing one more again. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 wraps. One thing I failed to mention is some needle nose pliers are always good to have. You can take your coil while it's on the screwdriver, put your thumb up on top of it to hold it nice and tight, and then pull any slack out of those legs. Don't go too hard on it. You can definitely snap one of the legs off. Cut that extra Canthol off real quick. Get that out of our way. We'll go back to our other coil, pull the leg nice and tight, pull the other leg nice and tight, and there we go, quite a bit cleaner. So now we have 2 micro coils. The next step, I like to put my Addy on the ohm reader, just as like a nice little build station. Okay, and we're going to do the first coil, the outside post here to this post here. So we're going to be skipping a hole so we can center those coils. So all I'm doing is just sliding my legs through the post holes there. I'm going to leave a little slack so we can center everything up. Right about there, like so. See, I got just a little bit too much room there on the legs of the coils. So that will give me a little slack to center everything up and to squeeze everything nice and tight. So now I've got it positioned, and I'm just going to hold down those legs of that coil so I can tighten it up without it moving on me. Alright? I'm just going to use my Allen key. Tighten that down nice and tight without shearing it. Tighten this one up nice and tight. Like so. Put my screwdriver back into my coil. Kind of start to straighten things up a little bit, and we'll leave it like that for the moment. Alright, so we got one coil in. We're going to go ahead and cut these leads off as close as we possibly can, so nice and flush. Alright, and again And that's just going to make putting our second coil in that much easier. Now those leads are out of the way. And that is what we will do next. Now, with this build deck, once I've got a coil in there, that coil is kind of blocking off this post hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend my canthal up like a hook and kind of scoop it in, so that way the canthal will come out above this coil instead of trying to poke into the coil. Alright? Kind of bend this leg up like so. And then I can just scoop that right in there. A little more bend, kind of a hook to it. That. Just pop that right in there. Kind of work it around the other coil. Maybe. Not really working with me. There we go. Alright, put my other leg through the negative post. And I want to set the depth as close to the same as the first one as I can. Okay, so right about there is looking good. Grab my Allen key again. Just tighten that guy up. Nice and tight. And then with the positive lead. Nice and tight. Alright, now you're going to want to be careful. Straighten this coil up a little bit first. You're going to want to be careful when you're going in and clipping this lead to be sure you don't clip the other coil. And there's a tight little space to work with there. And that is why I like these little flush cutters so much, because I can get in those tight little spaces. And we'll cut that one off flush. And there we go. We have 2 coils installed on our deck. Now we're going to make sure nothing's touching the deck real quick. We can turn this ohm reader on, see where we're sitting. 0.55. Make sure everything's nice and tight. It's the worst thing in the world to have a loose connection. And then your ohm reading is jumping all around all crazy. Alright, so there we go. Looking good. Coming in at 0.54, we'll call it. Just going to take this off here. Put it on my stainless steel Phenom from Vicious Ant. And then we can pulse and set our coils. There we go. Alright, definitely got some hot spots. So what we're going to do is take our handy dandy ceramic tweezers, pulse the coil, and just give them a nice little squeeze. Alright, we're also going to want these coils to be centered over that airflow hole. So we'll just squeeze them and wiggle our way right on over there, right above the airflow, like so. Pull the coil out a little bit. And the placement on that one on the top is just about perfect. Right over the airflow hole. Not too close to it, not too far away from it. Because the more you can align your airflow with your coils, and the closer you can get the coils to the airflow, the better your flavor is going to be. See, that one I just said is looking a lot better. That one at the bottom is still very raggedy. So what we'll do is we'll just pulse the coil, give it a nice squeeze. Alright, cool it off before we get to touching it. Just going to put my screwdriver back in there, hold the coil in place, just kind of work it on over to the middle there, right above that airflow. Now this is a pretty tight little deck, and you'll definitely want the coils to be inside of that circle, because you don't want any coils touching any top caps. Alright, because that will cause a short, and that is no good. So now we're doing pretty good. Got both coils glowing evenly from the inside out. I'm going to go off screen for just a second because this is kind of hard to do on camera, and I'm just gonna make sure it's to my liking. And here is our finished. Let me zoom in a little, or focus, should I say. And there we go. Two pretty clean little micro coils centered right over our airflow. As such, even, blow nice and evenly from the inside out. And that's about the best you can ask for, people. Right there. Alright, so now the hard part. Building this is a science, and wicking it is an art form. What we want to achieve is kind of like a K-fun wick. I've had really bad luck trying to put any more than just a tiny fragment into these juice channels here. And if you put any more than just a little tip in there, you can end up with some dry hits. And if you don't put enough in there and it's not blocked off, juice can run straight up and down into that hole and leak. And I've had a couple times where, like, if I set it down just right and the wick was just a little off, it'll just piss all the juice right out of one of the air holes, and that's never fun. So I'm going to try and show y'all what I have learned about doing this. Alright, so we've got an organic cotton ball here. I'm going to take me off a nice little chunk here, something to work with. And we're going to break this just about in half, okay? Because with this little almost 2 millimeter coil diameter, we can't put a whole lot in there. And we're just going to roll the tip up, just the tip. That's what she said. And then we're going to feed it through this coil. So, and then we're going to spin it through. Alright? We want to find a spot that's nice and firm inside of the coil, but not too tight as to choke off the flow of the juice. And that seems to be a pretty good resistance right there. And I hate that this is the one thing that I can't truly show y'all through video. It's getting just the right tension. And you know, anybody can learn to build, but it takes some practice and patience to wick something like this properly. So, you know, practice makes perfect, y'all. Because the first week I had this thing, it was giving me issues, either dry hit or leak, da-da-da-da-da. So right now I'm just going to cut this off right there and right there. And this is definitely not what we're leaving it as. That's just to get it out of my way so I can show y'all what we got going on. Now I'll do the other side. Grab the other half of that cotton ball. We'll take a little pinch off here, because it's a little more than a third of what we start with. There. Something like that. Alright. And we will just do the same thing for this side. And spin it through until I find a nice spot. Got good resistance to it there. And I think that right there will do us. Alright. I'm going to trim this one off. Now we're getting somewhere, guys and gals. Alright, now this is way too much wick. So we're going to start to trim. Alright. And you almost want it to be about even with that deck. Like, it's going to seem like way too little cotton. Alright, we're just trimming. Alright, and be careful when you're cutting this cotton like that, because as you see, I just pulled my wick way off out of center there. Alright, just going to blow off any cotton dust. You don't want to be inhaling that necessarily. And you're going to start off with something a little bit like this. Honestly, that right there is probably a little too much on that part. So we'll just go in and give that a little trim. Yeah, the wicking on this thing can be finicky for sure. Alright, and that is what we're looking like there. Now we need to juice it, and I'll kind of show you how I like to tuck it into where it should live. Grab some juices. Alright, today we're going to be using some Eden by Oakwood Vapor, honeydew melon, and pear nectar, bound together with a swirl of light whipping cream. There will be a link below for Oakwood Vapor. And be sure to check out our review on Oakwood Vapor. Eden is a fantastic flavor, highly recommend it. Alright, and I have it in this little dripper bottle because trying to fill an orchid up with a glass dripper just ain't going to happen. So we're going to just start getting these wicks a little wet here. Like so, you know, just wet enough to kind of work with and to hold in place. Don't over soak them because then you'll just have juice all over your hands and going down in the air hole. It's not fun. Now what we will do is take our little Allen key and just kind of start poking it down into place. And remember, we want to just barely cover those juice channels and maybe just have a tiny little piece of cotton down in them. Something just like that. And that's what we're going to go for on all four corners here. Alright, there's one side done. And that's what you want. Just the barest little hint of cotton in the tip of the channel there. Alright. That ought to do it. Got our chimney, our cotton tucked in. Something like that. Just covering those juice channels. Got it backed out of the way so when we screw the chimney on it won't catch it. And we'll do a little test fire. If I unlock my mode. Alright, that ought to do us just fine right there. Yep. So now all we do, we want to screw our chimney on. Now, I've been kind of using it almost as like a juice flow control and not screwing it on all the way, just barely covering the threads there, kind of leaving a gap like so. The threads could be a little better, but no big deal as it is a clone. Got our chimney on. Gonna put my tank section on. If I can line the threads up, like so. Oh, and also I've noticed that this tank section can bind down on those bottom threads. And to get the tank section off, I've been having to like put a screwdriver in the air hole and use it, hold the tank section and torque it, you know, to like get it kind of unlocked so I could just hand screw it off. That's a good little tip. One of your little stupid blue screwdrivers you have no use for, it's perfectly in the air hole, and then you can use it as like a handle to take the tank section off. Okay. Now we're going to put our top cap on. And here is a neat little trick I've learned, because as soon as you start to screw this top section on, the O-ring inside of here will hold the chimney and screw it on too, and I don't want that to happen because I want it to stay open. So what I've been doing is I take my ceramic tip tweezers, just stick it down in that chimney and hold it tight in place, and then the top cap will move but the chimney won't. And then once my top cap is on, I can also screw the juice flow control in and out, like so. So there's another little tip for you. Use your ceramic tip tweezers to adjust your juice flow control. Bada boom. Alright, got the atomizer all back together. And it is a bottom fill atomizer. Alright. Use a janky little blue screwdriver because it's closer than my real screwdriver. And we'll just fill this guy up. Now, if you try and squeeze every little drop of juice in there that you can, you're going to run into a little bit of a leak because of the pressure. So I like to leave a little bubble. So you see I just left like a little bit of blank space so there's not that much pressure. Alright. And this tank is going to hold about 2.5 mils. I get just a little less than 2.5 because I have that juice flow control kind of dealio up, so the chimney kind of takes up more space in the tank than it should have. Just screw that back in. Make sure your O-ring's on that screw, that little bitty O-ring, so you get a good seal. Otherwise you can get some leaking around this screw. Alright, so that's her. She's built. She's filled up. We'll throw it back on this Phenom, and we'll go up top and talk about it. So I'll see you there, guys. Alright, so that was my up close time, my build, my wicking. And honestly, the wicking is the most important on this thing. Too much wick, you're gonna get dry hits. Too little wicks, you're gonna piss juice all over your pocket or wherever you may have this. It's happened to me a couple times when I was still learning the ins and outs of it. But the build I got in there is rocking right along. Good flavor production, good vapor production. You know, it's what you could expect with about 4 millimeter airflow altogether. I'm rocking it with my Atlantis drip tip. And that's another thing I didn't show y'all. If you have your juice flow control out, do you see down in there? You can kind of see the top of that chimney poking in through my drip tip. Alright? Certain drip tips will not fit down in there when you have the juice flow control screwed all the way out. So take that into account. However, the bore on this one, you know, if you have a bore or something like that or bigger, you will fit down around that just fine. Like so. And it's been working well for me with the Atlantis drip tip. I also think it looks pretty sweet, especially on top of this stainless steel Phenom from Vicious Ant. Review coming up on that soon, thanks to Vaping Monkey. So you saw the build can be pretty finicky. It's definitely not something I would recommend for your first tank atomizer or rebuildable in general. And that's just due to like having a very tight workspace, kind of a finicky way that you have to wick it. Just the little quirks of this tank that have taken me a while to work out. I would have been really frustrated with this if this would have been my very first rebuild. So that's definitely one of the cons, is just the difficulty and finickiness of the build on this device. However, if you get that right, I really enjoy it. It could hold a little more juice. You know, the chimney could be a little wider. I really like that they put, you know, those extra screws and extra O-rings and stuff in the packaging. That's super important to have. And they gave you the Allen key. That's always nice. Yeah, not a... I mean, with this, the bulge, because the tank does kind of bulge out just a smidge from the rest of the body. It's definitely bigger than 22 millimeters. I'd call it about 23.5 millimeters in diameter at the middle of the tank there. I mean, I kind of like the look of it, but that might be a turnoff to some people. I would have liked to have seen it without the Orchid logo on there, as it is a clone. You know, we don't need that logo on there, China. Stop putting those logos on there. Overall, though, Tobeco did a pretty good job. Some of the threading is a little, but you know, what can you expect for like a $20 device? These can be had for anywhere from 20 bucks online to like 30 bucks in a shop. And now they're out to the version 3 and version 4 of the clones as well, which are more or less a K-Fun with an Orchid deck, so, and Orchid airflow. I mean, it's a good vape. It really is. So I like that. I like the vape that it gives off. It's got a nice form factor. I really do think it looks nice. I like the looks of this one better than the version 3, version 4. I don't know, there's not a whole lot else I can say about it. I will try and find a link to a store. I'll just put the link to the first store I find that has these online for a reasonable price. You can check it out yourself. I hope you enjoyed the build tutorial portion. That was the main goal of this, because I know this video has been done before by many other reviewers who have covered more points than me. But, you know, I just wanted to share with y'all my build, my wicking, my thoughts on it. It's an enjoyable tank. I think there are better options on the market now, such as like the Limo or the Billow, the Goblin by UD. Go check out Raylo Vape's video about the Goblin. I will put a link below. That is an awesome new little tank coming out, and I'm going to get myself one of those. So I think that's about it. There will be a link below to Oakwood Vapor. You can go check them out. Awesome juice company, fantastic juices. Loving this Eden. As always, everybody, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you joining me here in the Rockstar Vape studio. There will be a link below to where I got this shirt from. Southern Years Vinyl. Go check them out. And of course, all of our social media crap. Go join up with the Rockstar Vapes Facebook group. I'd love to see y'all there. We can chit chat, talk shop, you know, whatever. You can connect with me at my email, rockstarvapes@gmail.com. Remember to vape like a rockstar. Take it easy. Alright, where the... There's a little zoom. Autofocus, bitch.